And we're on. Blaze Marie, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I discovered you maybe a month or so ago. I saw you playing on the Live from Home open stage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Facebook group. And
Okay.
I didn't know at the time. I was like, wow, she has some pipes on her, and um, you're
Thank
like
you.
playing like songs that you wrote,
Yeah.
and then like you get emotional when you're singing, so you're like crying, and
Yeah.
you really belt it out. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if she wants to come on the podcast. And then I looked and I saw you live in Indianapolis also.
Yeah.
So that's where I live. So I thought that was pretty cool because I didn't know that at first. And so you are like part of your current situation is, I don't know exactly where you want to start. We can kind of like jump around through time as as the story unfolds. So I think you have a lot of cool stuff to a good story to share besides the music stuff.
Yeah.
So how about we start with where you're currently living and why, and then
Okay.
see where we end up.
Okay. So currently I'm actually in a sober living home. It's called Oxford House. It's a great organization. It's saved my life. It's different than a lot of sober living homes. So it's actually like there's no like house mom. It's just 9 girls living together. We're all fully self-supporting. We kind of hold ourselves accountable and hold each other accountable. Like I said, I live with 9 other women that are also in recovery. Um, this is my first time doing like the sober living thing. And it's definitely has its like ups and downs, just, with dealing with other people. But yeah, so I am there. It's in Indianapolis, kind of near downtown. There's actually like over 40 Oxford houses in Indiana. So we're all kind of like this big group of people trying to fix their lives and get back on track. So it's really cool. It scared me at first when I first got out of treatment. I went into a house that wasn't doing very well. And it kind of, put me on a rocky place, but, you know, my higher power or whatever you want to call it led me to where I am now. And it's amazing. It's really great.
So how did you end up in treatment to begin with? Like what, so you can get like what you were using, and then like what was like the final straw that like I have to do something different.
I'm 24. And I've been a heroin addict for 6 years. I've been using like drugs and alcohol since I was about 13. And I never really realized that I had an issue with it. I just was like, I'm in high school, I'm young, I'm just partying, whatever. And then when I was about 18, I got into a relationship that was super toxic. And he introduced me to the world of heroin. And for a long time, I blamed it on him. And I said, I'm not an addict. I'm not codependent. I had a bad relationship with her. But as I've been in the program, you hear a lot of people that kind of start in situations like that. And it's just something in your brain. Like it is a disease. And
I'm gonna hit pause for a second. Okay, we're back on.
okay.
Okay, so you were saying you were with this guy and he introduced you
Yeah.
to heroin.
Yeah. So yeah, I was in a toxic relationship, and that was about 2 years. And it started out like just, in my brain, it started off like I'm just, it's drugs. Like I didn't have like an idea of addiction. I was really naive. I didn't understand any of that, really. And then, it got really bad. And we ended up kind of splitting, and I went to, Fairbanks. Actually, I went into treatment for detox, when I was 20. And my whole focus was on the fact that like I wasn't going to be able to drink or do anything for my 21st birthday and all this. So on my 21st birthday, I was back in detox, because I was in a program and had relapsed. And so then after that, like I was kind of really against all of it, like against the program and everything. I had a really bad, first experience. And so I just kind of tried to do it on my own. I went traveling several times, like just kind of leaving home, trying to find the answer. And then about 2.5, 3 years ago now, something like that, I actually left home and ended up being homeless in Portland. I lost my car. I was sleeping under a bridge, living out of a backpack, like ended up living out of a trash bag, like, and started being like an IV user. And that was like such a low for me, for where I'm from. And while I was out there for about a year. And I kind of convinced myself like totally that, that's where I was going to die. And like, that's where I was going to live. And, that, that was what I was worth. And I actually met, I street perform. I always have sung. I've always used music, as like, that's just where I've always lived, really, in my heart, is with music. So while I was out there to earn money, and instead of like flying a sign, which I've done, I've begged, obviously. But for the most part, I sang and used music. And one day I was out singing, and this family kind of discovered me. And I think they felt my pain, and they felt, my determination to like figure out how to live, I guess. And they actually invited me into their home. I was accepted by them. They knew I was a heroin addict. They were actually, the father, the man of the family, was actually in recovery himself. And, one day he was like, look, I know that you're a heroin addict, and like, we still accept you. We still want you to be, we want to help you figure out what your path is. And they never forced me to like seek help or anything, but that kind of unconditional love really ended, like it got in my head. I was like, oh my God, I've never really felt this like unconditional like support and love. So I ended up trying to go to detox out there again, and it was like a really dark room and kind of scary. And so I left and just kind of kept like trying to find my footing. And then winter came. It's really cold out in Portland. And I was miserable. I was, it was miserable. I mean, it was just very, a dark time. So I actually contacted my family. I hadn't talked to them for months, like 8 months or so. They probably thought I was dead, and so I contacted them around, it was closer to Christmas, and ended up getting home to Indianapolis, to my mom's house. And when I first got back, like my mom and I don't have the best relationship. It's very rocky. And so living with her is, I love my mom, obviously, but our relationship is very rocky. And so when I moved back, I kind of struggled with like, I just want to go back. I just want to go back to Portland. I just want to, like, that's where I need to be. And then I ended up getting sober on Suboxone. I started going to a daily clinic and using maintenance medications. And I think that I guess I should speak upon that. I don't know, but I think maintenance medications can help people, and I've seen it work. It did not work for me. It worked for a while, but it was another substance. It was a synthetic opiate, and I woke up every single morning, had to take it, got it in my head. It was the same thing as heroin. It was like, if I didn't take it, I'd be sick, you know? And so I had about like a few months, I started writing music again, and like kind of found, you know, I got into a band, started playing out. But as soon as I started playing out, I started, my alcoholism kind of started showing a little bit more. I was drinking a lot. I mean, I was spending a lot more money at the bar than I probably should have. I was spending more money at the bar than I would, you know, for daily heroin use. Like, it was just drinking, smoking pot. Anybody offered me anything, I'd be like, yeah, it's not heroin, I'm taking it, you know? And so that lasted for about, you know, 4 or 5 months. And then, you know, it wasn't enough for me anymore. So while I was still on daily Suboxone, I started using heroin again, drinking, taking really a lot, just anything. And so I started teaching music, actually, which I loved my job, and I wasn't able to because of my job. And I think that really, it was hard. It was like I had to shut down this whole part of me. I had to hide my tattoos. I had to, you know, watch what I posted. I had to delete a lot of things about my recovery and about like me trying to find myself. And it felt like I had to just like shove, you know, me away and put on this like caramel face and, you know, teach. And so very shortly after that, you know, I was taking Suboxone every morning while using heroin, while, you know, drinking, taking everything. And I managed that for, you know, several months, kind of kept it under wraps. I would, you know, spread it out, like, you know, how they say in AA with alcoholics, you know, like I tried only doing it on the weekends or doing it one day and then waiting 2 weeks before I would do it again. But it like warped my brain so much where even if I was waiting, that's all I was waiting for that day to happen. It wasn't like I forgot about it, you know? So very shortly after that, it became an everyday thing. I was calling into work a lot, you know, I was saying I was sick. I would be, you know, dope sick or whatever and not be able to go to work. And, you know, with that, it wasn't like I just had a normal hourly job. Like I was letting down, you know, 12 plus students every day that I did that. And after being like homeless and literally having nothing and making that decision that that's kind of where I was, I reached a new bottom because I had gained so much. I had a great car, I had a great job, I had moved out on my own. And when I moved out of my mom's house and into my own place, that's when things got really ugly. Just, you know, using way too much. And, you know, my roommate ended up finding needle caps in the bathroom. Like just, it was bad. I was, you know, even the videos that I posted online, I feel like I've gone back and watched them and you can see like such a different face on me. Like my voice is different and everything. And it just got, I used every outlet that I could to keep that addiction going. And when right up until I went to treatment, so like a few weeks before I went into treatment, I totaled 2 cars within like a week of themselves. I totaled one car twice and the other car again. The third wreck that I got into, I actually spun out on the interstate, and if it would have been 30 seconds later, me and my friend would have been crushed by 2 semis. So it just got to the point where everything was so out of control. And I knew that it was, and I felt that like deep in my bones. But I couldn't stop. Like, you know, when you get that far into it, it's just like you have to keep it going. You can't push the pause button because you want to. Your brain won't let you. So my roommate actually, I had this guy come and stay, and we were just zombies for like 3 days in my house with my roommate. This was after social distancing, after the stimulus checks. I went through my whole stimulus check in 3 days. That bad. And, you know, he finally was like, listen, you gotta go. Like, I can't have this around me, you know? And I worded it to my mom, like, oh, you know, I just want to come and stay with you. And they had known that I was using at that point. And I was like, oh, I'm back on my Suboxone. I'm not as bad as I am, you know, and trying to play it off. Like, I'm just gonna come stay with you for a weekend. So I actually went and stayed with my mom. And I think deep down I knew that this was going to happen. Like I went and stayed with her. She thought that I wasn't using, but I was. And one day after about a week, at about 5 a.m, I went into such bad withdrawals that I was like shaking. I like couldn't move. I basically was just stuck in bed, like unable to move. And my mom came in. I had an abscess on my wrist. I had track marks on my hands, you know, just, it was really ugly. And, you know, she of course freaked out and was like, I can't handle this. And I think part of me, I know that like, I knew that, and my higher power, I think, really like pushed me in that direction, because my mom, you know, then obviously got on the phone. She found Landmark Recovery, which is where I went to treatment, and it was a longer term treatment center. So it wasn't just like, we're going to put you in there, we're going to let you detox and then put you back out into the world. So I wish I would have gone in a few days earlier, but I was so miserable that I just didn't want to go through it. It was the worst illness that I've ever had. Like I felt like I was going to die. It was, I mean, shaking, everything. And so a few days after that, I had about 3 or 4 days, I think 4 days off of heroin, when I went into Landmark. And when I got there, I was just a shell of a person. Like I had this hood on, you know, people said that I looked like a dark Eskimo husky or something. Like I just, dark circles around my eyes, my face was sunken in, you know, just didn't know what to say to anybody. And I stayed at Landmark for 21 days. And while I was in there, like, it kind of, you go through like a path of time. Like when you first get in there into treatment, you're like, I don't want to be here. You know, I don't know what my life is going to look like. And then as I listened to other people that were there, and I met, you know, other women and other men that were in there, I started singing again. I started writing again. I found like, you know, an understanding of my higher power, and I got this kind of like fire under my ass to be like, I really, like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die if I don't get better. So I went through the program. It was a 35 to 45 day program. I was the first person accepted on Medicaid. because I have Medicaid. I don't have private insurance. So Medicaid actually only accepts 21 days. So I didn't get the full, I didn't get the full program at all. I had about 15 days less than like what most people go in there for. And the main thing that I was coming off of was Suboxone. So I was taking 16 milligrams of Suboxone a day, and they got me completely off of it in like 8 days. So I went from 16 to 8 to 4 to 2 to nothing, which is not really the best way to do it. I had seizures in there. It was bad. It was very scary stuff. But I made it through it. I was released on, I believe, the 19th of May. 19th of May. Yeah. And I went directly into an Oxford house. And yeah, the first Oxford house that I went into, like I kind of said before, was just not ran well. It needed a lot of changes, which since then it has, like, the chapter members have stepped in and tried to fix it, but it really messed with my serenity. So my story with heroin actually didn't end before I went into treatment. It ended after I got out. On Wednesday, the 27th, I relapsed on $20, and I totaled another car. I ran into a tree. I had to be pulled out by police officers, and by the grace of God, I'm still alive. The car does not look like I should be. I didn't have a scratch on me, and I was given a breathalyzer, and since it was 0.00, I was allowed to go. And I was given a gift of desperation that night. And I was so ashamed of myself and so broken by like the decisions that I had made that I like swore to myself to try everything to fix it. So the next day I went into the Oxford house that I'm in now. And that guilt and shame bled through for the first few days. And I was actually asked to take a drug test. And I was scared about, when I had relapsed versus when I was accepted into the house and everything, and lied about it. And that almost led me to be kicked out of that house and be evicted. And again, by the grace of God and by the skin of my teeth, like I was able to stay. And since then, like I've been going to, meetings every single day, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, completely 180'd my life. I got out of my toxic relationships that I was in. I let go of people that, were keeping me down, that were keeping me in that life. And I've just completely immersed myself in Oxford House and in my recovery and in my music. And yeah, I mean, it's still a day by day thing. I can't, sit here and say like that I'm cured or anything, because I never will be. I'll have this the rest of my life. I'll carry this with me forever. But that's kind of what's led me here to this point, and how treatment and stuff went. The long answer.
Well, it's a lot of amazing stuff. One thing that I notice, like when I'm like looking for guests, is I look for like a story to tell, and when I pick somebody, I'm pretty much always right. There's like something there. So there was like a few things. Like one of the things that when we were messaging back and forth, so I'm like trying to like tune in to like your story and like what's what have you said and what's like unsaid. And I was telling you about like this group of friends, local. It's a group I started, but there's no like real leader of it or anything. It's called Indie Strength and Movement Community,
Yeah.
and there's like 130 of us in this group, and like people can say like, oh, I'm gonna go to Eagle Creek Park or something. If anybody wants to meet there, we can meet at this place at 1 o'clock or whatever, and then however many people will show up. Or so it's not organized, just like, hey, and people meet people they didn't know before, but it's all like healthy people doing healthy stuff. Like I like lifting rocks and logs and climbing trees, and there's like people doing handstands, or like just, and other people that are like. So what I was thinking was like how you get away from your friends, which may or may not be the best word for them, like how you get away. And so like when I sent you that, see if you want to like join that group, it's like, hey, here's a cool bunch of people that like you can just like plug yourself into this cool community. Like, so when you have like this, so like if you wanted to get something, where to go. Like if you want to get like a heroin again, you can figure it out. So like, is that person's number still in your phone? You just like, or do you delete it? And let's start with that. Do you delete those numbers? Do you unfriend? Do you do that?
So when I was in treatment, actually, before I got out, I had my patient advocate there help me delete all of my contacts. The unfortunate thing about like my I guess there's some unfortunate things sometimes about being in the music community and being sober, and playing out in bars and stuff like that can be an issue for some. And for me, like, especially since these videos have gotten a lot more traction than what I'm used to, I did delete. Like I don't have people that I used to get from in my phone anymore, at least numbers.
Cool.
I have them blocked. I mean, if you have a newer iPhone, then you know that technically that blocked list never goes away. It's still like in your phone and accessible. So I guess like really it's just, I mean, I know corners I could go to, and find things. So it really becomes like, I just need to make the decision, to not reach out to those people. I've had people reach out to me since I've posted my sober videos, my videos about me being a recovering addict, about me singing about these things. And I've had people reach out to me saying, oh, it sucks that you're, this many days sober because I can't show you that good dope I've got or whatever, and I just have to like delete it, throw it in the trash, or I can respond to it. And so like, I've just had to make the decision every day to not respond to those people if they reach out to me. And if someone is going to be toxic for me, to try and stay as far away as possible.
Yeah. And I really believe stories are healers. So I think just by telling your story, you can help people out, and like it helps you to hopefully just to, like tell it, and not like that you're trying to get like advice from me or something like that, by like echo it off of me so you can.
Yeah.
But when you're going to play music, like if you want to go, do you post like if you're wanting to start a band? I know you play a lot of by yourself, but you're like, okay, I want to have a sober band. If you want me to play guitar and sing, it has to be completely sober.
Yeah.
I think that there's our I don't want to interrupt your answer to that, but there's other people want that too. So you're not the only one like trying to like find a sober band. There's a lot of people that they go to the bar, and like you've heard people like that, they drink socially. Like,
yeah,
it's like a very common thing to say, like, oh, I just drink socially. What the fuck? Drink
yeah. How do you do that?
like, but like, why? Not
Yeah.
how, but why?
Yeah.
So you want to be around this group of people, so you have to like drink. This is
Yeah.
tea, but
Yeah.
I don't drink or smoke. I don't do anything. But like, so to be like out and having fun, you'll drink socially. Like there's so many like cool things that we accept as like, oh, that's cool, that's fine. But
I mean,
you know,
that's how it started for me too. Like, you know, to drink and to do drugs to fit in, to get people to like me as a performer, as a front person. Cause I mean, I have been in rock bands and stuff. And a lot of that like usage is like, you know, can I get up on stage and give a good show without being loosened up, you know, without feeling like myself? But really, I think a lot of that was being so downed out by the drugs that I was taking that I'd be like, all right, well, I need to drink or I need to do some coke or I need to, you know, smoke some weed so I can like liven up and fit in with all of these other people that are on that level, you know?
yeah, yeah. When like I had this weird it's like it's been almost 8 years exactly. It was like July 3rd of almost 8 years ago now. I got to know like I think she was like an angel or a bodhisattva or something like that, like some kind of like non-human kind of person, and she was able to just like turn the dial. So I would like drink and smoke weed pretty much every day, and um, and then I don't need to like get too into it, but it was like she just like turn the turn the dial where like, okay, I don't do that anymore, and I don't like crave it or anything like that. And I have like friends that I hung out with regularly right before then, but when I'm not the guy that goes and smokes and drinks, some of them I have literally not seen since. I
Yeah.
asked them if they wanted to come over and work out with me, do martial arts and stuff, and nope. And after that day, I think I went about a year without hanging out with anybody,
Yeah.
like zero hangout time.
Yeah.
But what it does, and what you'll see, and I think you have hints of this anyways, which is kind of what I was trying to get to. Um, so like after like a year went by, then I meet this like cool woman who wouldn't want to be with the guy that like drinks and smokes all the time.
Yeah.
She wants like the kind of guy I am without. We broke up years ago, but it
Yeah.
was still like, here's this relationship that would not have happened, and it was very positive. Even the breakup was very cool. We didn't yell at each other and cuss and stuff. Um, and then it's like the next one, and then like the group of friends. So, and it's not, I don't care if my friends like drink beer or smoke weed or something like that. I don't care. They,
Any friends that like can handle that. Yeah.
yeah, but you'll like send out like a different vibration. And so
Yeah.
when if you do put it out there that you do want a band or somebody to jam with, or if you're by yourself, then you're by yourself. But I think more and more people will uh, want that because other people want that too.
Yeah.
They don't want to be like just to hang out and have like smoking weed or drink and be the main event.
Yeah.
Like and what I saw with you that I thought was cool, that was, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but one of the reasons that attracted me to you and your story was I saw how people were helping you, because I saw the live from home open stage. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea, and I started a group for fitness instructors and yoga teachers, copied off of that group, so they could
Yeah.
do like live home workout stuff. But I saw like you posted, I think you're like playing and singing for an hour, and it was a fundraiser, and you were trying to get $300 for some studio time, and you
Yeah.
had it like in one day, right?
Yeah. It was crazy. It was very quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that album has yet to be made, unfortunately. But I am making the moves to do so, and like the promises that I made with that, like I still intend to keep. It was a bad time. You know, like I said, I think I just manipulated every outlet that I could. But yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Like it's been crazy. Like even just in a month, like the way that like I hold myself and like you said, vibrations and the way that you send out, you know, your energy, it's completely different. Like I used to always be like, why do I meet all these people, like terrible people, you know? And it's like, because I didn't care about myself. I didn't love myself. I wasn't like taking care of myself. I was, you know, high all the time. I didn't even know what was going on. And then now, like I go to meetings, I put out this like vibration that I want to put out, and I am more myself, and I've met amazing people, and like I continue to like have these opportunities come to me, like even this. And you know, I have a thing with Connorsville TV coming up. I'm gonna perform there, like, and then this like all of these people, like I mean like 4.7 thousand views on a video, like that's like unheard, like I never could have imagined that, you know. And it's just it's awesome. It's like it's really cool to watch it like unfold. But
Yeah, there's something very pure about, because the music industry from its very beginning has known to be this shady industry. They screw all the artists. Yeah, some of them get to be your, you know, multimillionaires, but they're, you know, they get screwed by the managers. And there's something very pure about just getting on Facebook and be like, okay, I'm going to play for an hour. Here's my PayPal, my Venmo, whatever. And then have people give it directly to you. And you're not like, here's 10% to you, here's 20% to you. It was like the
homegrown, man.
yeah, so people like being part of somebody else's path, a little like boost along the way.
Yeah.
And like, so you were saying, I think you alluded it to it a little bit. So because I saw the other day you put up another fundraiser for like $200. And I clicked to donate, and then it was gone, and I sent you the message.
Yeah.
And like you had like some like guilt about it, and
yeah.
So you're like, because you spent other money in ways that you feel guilty about, like when it was supposed to go to this. And like what I told you, and I mean, of course you have to like do what you think is right. You know yourself better than me, of course, but I have pretty good idea what's going on. Like you said, you wanted a new guitar and a new keyboard, and you're asking for $200. Like you can't get that. So what I'm thinking is like shoot bigger. Like why not just say, I need $1,200. This guitar I want is 500. This you said the keyboard's 600 or whatever. Like why not just say, do you not trust yourself with like?
No, so it has more to do with, I think that I don't want all of the money for the equipment to come from donations. I want to have to work for it, and to like have, you know, myself be included in that. And I feel like if I were to just make all of the money for it and get it from donation again, like, I don't know. I think part of me is like, I feel like I manipulated a lot of people, and I am open about that now because I did. And I think that, you know, knowing my story and knowing about my relapse, even the people that are continuing to donate to my progress and my journey know that and understand that and can kind of see the difference between me being high on Facebook Live and me like actually trying to share my story and try to share songs that are empowering and that are healing, instead of just doing it to do it, you know. And I feel like that's what it was before, is I just kind of was like doing it to do it. I was like, oh, here is this fundraiser button and I can make an EP, which I really did. Like most addicts will tell you, like, I had the best intentions, and it wasn't like I did that purposely for, like, it wasn't like in my brain, I'm gonna do this because I want money for drugs, you know. I mean, I had a job, I had money in my bank account, stimulus check happened, but then it was like, you know, it happens the way it happens. And so, you know, once you get so far down the whole like, you know, getting $300 directed to your bank account, you know, it was just hard for me to like say, okay, no, I'm not gonna use that. I'm gonna like go try to make an album. And there are like, I do have messages. There are people that I reached out to, and I sent songs to people. I was looking for you know, producers and engineers to help me record songs. And you know, like I did have the best intentions. It just didn't happen. So I feel like part of the whole fundraiser thing and getting new equipment and everything, like I want to get new equipment because I want to make my original promise happen. I want to make that album happen, and I want to make those songs happen and those recordings happen. And I feel like, you know, I don't want the people that have already supported me, which I'm already seeing, you know, that happen, even being honest about that, and obviously having the album not happen and people, you know, supporting me this time around as well. And it just shows like this like belief that people have in me that kind of like blows my mind, you know, because sometimes I don't even believe in myself, and it really is like my music really is for, you know, the people that support me. And like, I guess my fans, it's weird for me to say that, but like, I mean, it kind of is like turning into that. And it's just, it's like an incredible thing to like feel like I don't have to like, I always like made it a thing where it's like I have to find a you know, people to like put money in me, and I need money to like make this happen. And it's like, it's just so cool with the internet. And I think this COVID thing is actually making like homegrown artists like even more so, because people are like at home, like needing that outlet and needing to find things like online. We're not just like going out to bars and watching live music anymore. We're not like going out to concerts anymore. Concerts aren't even happening. And so it's like, you know, how many times can you listen to the same song on the radio? You know, it gets old real quick. And so people are like searching for these outlets. I have people reaching out to me for voice lessons over Zoom, you know, and to do shows and stuff like that. And even this, like, you know, the podcast over Zoom and stuff like that, instead of being live. And it's like opening this new era for people like me to have that outlet and to have 4.7 thousand eyeballs on a video. You know, I don't think that would have happened pre-COVID, to be honest. So it's just neat.
Yeah, so like make plans and God laughs, right? But yeah, it's like what I'm saying is like there's nothing wrong with like feeling bad for not using the money like the way you intended to, but it's also that you don't have to feel bad about like asking for more too, because like the purity of it is you know, you're like playing, okay, I'm gonna play for an hour and a half, I'm trying to get a new guitar, and you see how it works, and you see how people like we're all human, right? So some of us are better at hiding our dark side than others. Like the worst things that I've done, maybe you're not like cast out all over for the whole world to see, or somebody else, like the worst thing they did is on video and it has, or like you flat out admitting this. But I think people are really understanding, and like you can, like there's a saying kind of like give you wings, like so like people are blown away by your voice and your playing, and so if they want to support you, like, oh, she wants a new guitar, okay, well, instead of giving 20, I'm gonna do 30, or like instead of doing 5, I'll do 10, or and just kind of like let people like let it happen. There's something that people do. They'll resist the success that they want, that they say they want. They put up some kind of like oh, I don't deserve that kind of money yet. I'm not there yet. I need to. So I maybe just try to like, you know, let it happen, and getting all these opportunities is really cool. So like next month we can start having concerts, right? Because I have I know I have tickets to a concert in August, but I think like
It should be opening back up, but like it's such weird times that it's like, you know, you hear about other places opening back up and then they just COVID happens again, so then they close down.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
So I don't know. It's, you know, it's just outdoor concerts. So I know that there's some places that have like started letting people like perform live outside, which is really cool.
Yeah. Um, so are you wanting to like stay solo artist, or are you wanting to find a band, or what are you thinking?
Well, technically I'm in a band, but because of my addiction and because of my usage, we took a year to record 5 songs and I still haven't put vocals on them. So, I mean, I, I love playing with other people. I think the energy of being on stage with like 3, 4 other people that are just like loving what they do and like putting their entire heart and soul into it is just this like, it's like this feeling that's very different. Like when I get up on stage with me and a guitar or a piano, it's like mellow. It's like so low vibration. But when I get on stage with like a rock band and I'm like feeling it and all this emotion and I'm pulling from other people, it's like being in a play or something. Like I'm working off of other people. So I love performing with other people. I also have so many different genres. Like there's like hip hop me that like wants to like make beats and like rap and like do, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then there's like rock and roll Blaze. And then there's like, you know, sad little like broken girl trying to fix herself with music, you know, like, so it's just, I think that like genre wise, it kind of depends, you know, like I'm just kind of letting it unfold at this point and I'm trying to like stop forcing it as much and like going into these projects with this idea of like what I want it to be, and I'm just trying to like write music and see what happens from it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like bands and I would like to be in bands, but I also know that like my solo personality has its own niche as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you're good as a like the leader of, and if you're the leader, then like you can be the one that calls the shots. Like if you want it to be like, we don't drink or smoke. This is the deal with working with me. I don't want to be around it. And
Yeah.
I think there's a big want for that too. So I like a couple questions. And I don't know if they're related. Like you mentioned, like living with your mom. I was like, what happened to your dad? And also, how did you get started in music? Because I mean, you can like really, well, how about just we'll just stick with that for now. Like, how did you get started in music, and where's your dad?
Okay. So my father is dead actually. He was stabbed to death when I was 5.
Damn.
Um, yeah. And I've lived with that for a long time. Like it's, you know, heavy. I know that. But it just is what it is. He was an alcoholic actually, and was really wasted and got into a fight with the wrong person. And, you know, it ended his life. Um,
Damn.
and he left me and my younger brother and sister. And uh, my father was actually a musician as well. I always loved music. I sang before I talked, you know, like that's what my mom says. Um, and when I was 13, I got a guitar. I started learning a little bit of guitar and writing songs when I was about 10, 11, 12. And then I got a guitar when I was 13 and it was just over. Like I just fell in love with it. I didn't know very much. And a lot of my songs were about my father, and about like all of this trauma and this pain and my relationship with my mother. And when I was 16, I actually got a CD. I had never heard my father's voice before or like heard him play. And when I was 16, I got a CD of him like singing and playing guitar, and like him and my mom actually did like this song together or whatever. And and it was very cool. And I got some of his like poetry and some of his workings, his like writings. And then, yeah, I think I always loved music, and I got started like very young. But I would say that like my addiction and like my usage in the past 6 years has made me like the artist that I am. Like I would not have the voice, the vocabulary, or the way to express myself if I hadn't been through any of that.
Yeah, yeah, you can like really belt out like your soul. And when when yeah, for some reason I was pretty sure those things would be go hand in hand. I got a guitar for my 13th birthday too. My dad died in 2005. But he played guitar and sang, and I have music of his recorded too. And yeah, it's pretty cool. He sounded like Elvis, like
Yeah.
he could fucking play and sing.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Like Lou Reed kind of Velvet Underground, like like voice.
that's cool. So did you take voice lessons? How did you get?
So I went to Interlochen Arts Camp when I was 11, 12, and 13, I think, and did like musical theater all growing up. I've only had about 6 months of like actual voice lessons in my entire life, though. A lot of me has been self-taught, and the way that I teach is very physical, because like the voice is a muscle, and if you pay attention to your body and if you're present inside your body, like when you're doing things like singing and even talking, like even your talking voice, like I project very loud. I know this, I know I do. I'm loud as fuck. But with singing, like it's all in your diaphragm, it's all in your core and in your muscles. And so, I was like most teenagers, like I screamed and, didn't know what I was doing with it. And just by the feedback of other people and like working in musical theater, like really helped me a lot. Because with musical theater, you have to sing properly or else these big notes that are in a lot of these songs like aren't going to happen. And so I was a musical theater nerd, like all growing up before my addiction. And so I just learned how to reach those big notes. I loved Wicked and Idina Menzel and Rent and these like just these women on Broadway, Sutton Foster, like these women that just have these huge, gorgeous voices. And I mimicked myself probably more after them in my younger years, and then started smoking and using. And then it was like, I'm Janis Joplin, it just kind of switched and moved. But I always had a thing for these women that had huge, big, soulful voices, and just kind of taught myself to be able to reach those notes.
Yeah, it's really cool. So when you're performing out, is it all your own music? Do you play covers? I think most of what I've heard you play is your own stuff.
Yeah, most of the time it's all original or freestyles. Like when I street perform, I do a lot of freestyling. I will pick 2 or 3 chords and just kind of like word vomit. It's like diary entries, but with singing. And then when I do shows, like it's mostly all of my originals. I think like sometimes I'll do like Folsom Prison Blues or like, Bobby McGee. Those are like 2 that I do when I busk. And there's been like a couple like, covers, but I mean, most of the time it's all me and all original stuff. I like covers. I mean, when I started teaching music, I learned a lot more covers than probably I even wanted to. But I just prefer to sing from my heart and from my soul. The feedback that I've gotten is always like when I sing a cover, people kind of like tune out. And then when I sing my original stuff, it's like people can feel it a lot more. And it's like a lot more personal, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's really really good stuff. 'Cause, like, you'll sometimes be playing like, um, I don't mean simple as a bad thing, but like something like simple, and it doesn't sound like it would be that difficult, like vocally. It sounds like almost like a, um, I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but then all of a sudden you're like belting out this. It's like you can go. So like I play guitar and like sing, but I'm not like a singer. That's why I wanted singing lessons. I'm sure my neighbors will appreciate it. But like I'm always impressed by the people that can either like play guitar at 100% effort.
Mhm.
They can, or sing at a like 100. It doesn't, like when you're singing, like you're hitting the notes, but it doesn't sound like you could squeeze out anymore. It sounds like you get 100%, and it sounds good. Where if I tried at 100%, it's bad. It's not. So
Yeah.
like
We'll work on it.
yeah,
It's all muscle. You'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. I think it's in my genes somewhere. But where was I going with that? Oh, so yeah, just like the range of music that you play, it's pretty cool. I think I listened to like a whole hour and then of one, and then like some other stuff.
Sorry.
No, I was like trying to like tune in to what we would be doing. Um, I'm not sure if you had to go to get going. We've been at it for like a little over an hour. Are
I
you
have to go to.
okay?
So
Do you have like final like thoughts? Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to? How can people get a hold of it? This is heard all over. This podcast has been heard in over 100 countries, and so it's like most of the listeners are not local. They're all over the world. It's pretty crazy to
that's
see the map of it.
pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. You're
Yeah, it's like
red here.
yeah, it's kind of like weird for me too, because it seems like I'm just talking to you, but like it'll get out to like
Yeah.
the whole map's worth of countries. Um, I guess what are your final thoughts, and how can people get a hold of you and or find your music?
So before I I'm still like getting my bearings with that. Obviously Blaze Marie music kind of across the board. Luckily I have one of those names that makes it pretty easy to find. Um, Blaze Marie. I do have Spotify. I do have SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, and Instagram, and all of that. There's not as much on that as like I'd like, but I am working with people currently. I'm talking with a few different engineers on like creating some music behind me. Since my video has gotten the traction that it has, I have people that I've played music with in the past that are wanting to be a part of my journey. I'm really big on just like, I want people that want to make their lives the best that they can to be a part of it. So right now I'm kind of in the beginning stages still. I'm just releasing videos in my bedroom and trying to share the music that I do have. And then while in the background working on making like official recordings to put out. But right now I do have Spotify pages that you can like, that you can follow. So when I do post things, you're the first to know about it. Same thing with like, my Facebook and everything. I've been using Facebook a lot more than anything else, just because that's where I've been gaining this following. So I would say probably start there. And then as far as like last words, just, I obviously a big part of my story is, addiction and is like recovery. And, if you're struggling, like reach out. Like I'm not untouchable by any means. Like, I want to talk to as many people as possible. I want to gain a community of people that, you know, want to change their lives for the better. And it doesn't necessarily have to be drugs and alcohol, you know, like my story goes a lot deeper. We could have a 3-hour podcast on, you know, before all of that, you know, and just don't be afraid to like take the steps, because it definitely takes making the choice to make the choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I can see you like really like going far, and obviously a lot of other people can too. Sorry, there's like a loud ass motorcycle outside. Um, that's not good music.
Vroom, vroom.
Yeah. So, are you on? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. Same thing. Blaze Marie. It's just across the board. The YouTube doesn't really have anything on it yet. I am going to be sharing the videos that I posted on Facebook on YouTube as well. And then I am going to start maybe putting them on YouTube first and then sharing the links to try and get on other platforms. And then I actually played at Black Circle, and the guy who does sound there, I'm going to be recording like 3 songs with him, just simple, like me and my guitar, me and my piano. And then I'm going to be making like kind of a demo EP with that, and that'll be on Bandcamp and Spotify and YouTube and all of that. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to see you have so many options, and
Yeah.
and I think you can like gain more confidence in your path is like you see how many other people have confidence in you and are willing to and wanting to work with you and stuff. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. It's one of those things where, like, you know, it's crazy to think, like I said, you know, 2.5 years ago, I was living out of a trash bag on the streets with needles in my arms in broad daylight. And today I'm, you know, sober, and I'm free, and the opportunities keep flowing my way because my higher power and, you know, the energy that is surrounding me can see that I'm trying to do the right thing. And for once, you know, I'm actually really working towards it. And, you know, if you go towards the dark, then you're going to stay in the dark. And if you go towards the light, then it's only going to get brighter.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe we're obligated to shine our light in the world. Like we're at whatever like we have. So if you're not out there, like if you just like got a nice job making 80 grand a year sitting behind a desk somewhere, you can have like this nice house, nice car, nice everything. You're messing up. Even if you should be out there like doing your music, shining your light the way it's supposed to be shown. I believe it is our divine obligation to do that stuff. So very cool. Well, I will if unless you have anything more, we'll hit stop.
All right. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I'm gonna hit stop. I'll talk to you for just a second after I hit stop.